Hi, I'm Mary. If you would like to learn more about gardening, home decor, holiday decorating and crafts, and even a little cooking, you're at the right place. And today, why don't you think about subscribing to my channel? And you could even hit that little notification bell if you'd like to be made aware whenever I put up a new video. Now today I'm in the kitchen again, and guess what we're going to be doing? Well, Denise Jordan and all of us who are part of her sister circle, we came up with the idea of doing a peach dessert to celebrate National Peach Month. Because guess what? August is National Peach Month. Isn't that appropriate? And it was declared as National Peach Month, I believe it was back in the 1970s. And actually President Reagan was the one who declared August National Peach Month. Just a tiny bit of history. But in any case, what I am doing for this collaboration is making a peach crisp. And this is a recipe that I got from a friend of mine a few years ago when I was living back in South Carolina, where of course there are many peaches, and the most delicious peaches really in the world are southern peaches. However, I live in Colorado, and guess what? In Colorado, we have an area on the western side of our state. It's called the Palisades area, and in that place, it's a little bit lower altitude, only about 4,000 something feet. And they also have a lot of water from the snow melt from the mountains. And on top of that, they additionally have more intense sunlight than you have at lower altitudes. So all of that put together enables them to grow delicious peaches. And so it is time to purchase Palisade peaches and make a peach crisp. All right, fellow peach lovers. Today we're going to start on the peach crisp by making the topping. I always start with that on these type of desserts. So in this bowl, I have 1 1/2 cups of flour. And to that, I will be adding 1 1/2 cups of quick cooking rolled oats. So we're just going to pour the 1 1/2 cups right on in there. And I like to stir just a bit, and I have this great kind of curved spatula that's wonderful for these kind of mixing opportunities, I guess you might say, when you're baking. So I'm just making sure the oats and the flour are mixed together well. And then to it, I'm going to be adding 1 cup of brown sugar. And I've kind of packed it into the cup. And now I'll sort of break it apart and mix that in as well. We want everything to be evenly distributed in our topping. So just break up any little chunks of brown sugar you might find in the mixture and distribute it around in the topping. And okay, so we'll move on to adding 3/4 of a cup of chopped pecans. And nothing says Southern dish like adding pecans to it. Don't you agree? But these pecans add an incredible flavor to your topping. All right, I think that's about just done. And the next thing we're going to add is some powdered cinnamon. And we're going to put in 1/2 teaspoon. Here you can see, 1/2 teaspoon. So I'm just gonna reach in my little jar here, sprinkle that around, and mix again. So you can see this is not a complicated topping at all. It goes together quickly and nicely for you. I'm just kind of scrunching around in here right now to see if there's any lumps of brown sugar still left in the mixture. Because our next step will be to add our butter. Now we're going to be using 1 stick of butter, and I have it here ready to go. It is cold butter right out of the fridge, and that enables you to use a pastry cutter, which I have right here, to incorporate the butter and break it up sort of evenly into small pieces in your topping. So what I'm going to be doing is just taking a plain old knife and cutting small slices of the butter and placing it right on top of my mixture, kind of scattering it around. And then I will take out this spatula, and we're going to start putting it together with this pastry cutter. This is an essential tool when you're making pies, cobblers, and a crisp like I'm making today. So let's get it mixed in. And you do have to press hard, and the butter will stick to the pastry cutter. And if it does, you can take your knife and release it from the wires of the pastry cutter so that you get it all mixed in properly. So I have my mixture completed, and you might be able to see a few lumps of butter in there still, and that's perfectly okay. That butter will melt into the rest of the topping as the peach crisp is baking. And I do say to you that you have to be a little bit patient when you're working with your pastry cutter and incorporating the butter into the mixture. It can take a little bit of time, but oh, is it so well worth it. So guys, I have sprayed my pan with coconut spray. This is my preferred spray oil to use, especially in baking products that are on the sweet side. It is fantastic. And then I have all of my peaches here ready. They're they're peeled and ready to be sliced and placed right straight into the pan. So let's get started on that. Did you all notice when I was slicing the peaches how they got really slippery and there was just peach juice running all over my hands? And you know what that tells me? These are sweet, juicy, delicious Palisade peaches. And I have them spread out evenly in my baking dish. And I wanted to add a couple of tidbits to this recipe. And I mentioned just using flour and oats in the topping, and that is true. Anyone can do that. My daughter happens to have celiac disease, and so I always bake gluten-free. So if you'd like a gluten-free option for this recipe, what I used was this gluten-free baking flour by Bob's Red Mill. It is excellent for baking. And I also used quick cooking whole grain rolled oats, but they are gluten-free, GF. Now, you don't need to do that, of course, if you're not trying to avoid any gluten in your diet. But for our family, this works really well. And I have cut back on the amount of gluten that I eat, so, you know, we all enjoy it together and learning how to bake gluten-free. Now, I'm going to take my topping and sprinkle it across the top of my sliced peaches here. And you may have heard me say this in the past, but I was a big fan of Ina Garten when she had her cooking show on Food Network. And one of my favorite quotes by her is that clean hands are the cook's best tool. So I have just washed my hands thoroughly, and I'm going to just take my hand and scoop out some of this topping and sprinkle it right on top. And I like using my hand because I can control where the topping is going, make sure I get all of the edges thoroughly covered. And so I just sprinkle. I always like to do my edges first. Not super important, but I just like doing it that way. And of course, we're going to have our pecans in this topping, which is going to make it extra delicious. And we're going to bake this. I have my oven preheated, so we're going to be baking it at 400 degrees. And I'll take a look at my recipe so I can tell you precisely how long to bake it. Just want to make sure everything is thoroughly covered, but not that I've got so much topping on you can't taste the peaches. Alrighty. Fantastic. Now it is ready to pop into the oven. Well guys, my peach crisp is now out of the oven and ready to eat. I have a cup of tea here steeping, ready for me to drink with my peach crisp. And I'm just planning to take my plate and scoop out a serving for myself for breakfast. Yummy. And guys, I didn't mention earlier, but I wanted to be sure to say that peaches are so sweet and they cook up so quickly in the oven. I said I was going to mention how long I baked this for, and it was 25 minutes at 400 degrees, but I didn't add any sugar to the peaches at all because they are naturally sweet and delicious just as they are. The topping adds, you know, a little bit more sweetening with the brown sugar that I put in it. But in any case, here I am, and these peaches are so juicy and delicious that, of course, it's not going to come all out in one piece, is it? That's okay, it still tastes fantastic. Yummy breakfast for me today. Wow. So thank you all for watching, and do some baking this August using our fresh peaches that are in season. I know your family will be happy that you do.